On Monday, September the 27th, federal judge Paul L. Freeman of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia signed an order releasing John Hinckley Jr. Coming June 2022. If many of you who don't know who John Hinckley Jr. is, John Hinckley Jr. is the man who shot President Reagan, Delaney, as well as police officer Delaney, as well as Brady, the press secretary, Jim Brady. And so this was back in 1981. So federal judge Freeman has now issued an order that Mr. Hinckley is well enough to be released with no conditions in June of 2022. So this is a hot topic that we need to discuss. And myself, along with Brother Midnight, we're going to address this topic. So won't you all stay tuned and let's get to it.
I was homeless, I didn't have a house, sleeping in my car outside my friend's house. He walked out, said come inside, while you sleeping in your ride. You know it's cold outside, can't eat food, ain't no place to live. Good advice, you better than better, say get on the grind. Don't give up my nigga, you destined to shine, get on your feet nigga.
Greetings, brothers and sisters all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Positive Lifestyle Management Awareness Session. My name is Brother Fee Taylor. That's my co-host there, Brother Midnight. And so today we got a hot topic. And that topic is John Hinckley Jr. has been ordered to be released from Federal Psychiatric Center come June 2022. But before we get to that, we'd like for you all to hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons, hit the notification bell, as well as send in y'all comments on this topic. This is a hot topic because we're finna really address this issue in the hypocrisy in the system. So let's get to it. All right. Federal Judge Paul L. Freeman of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia ordered on September the 27th, 2021 that John Hinckley Jr. to be released from custody at a psychiatric ward come June 22. Now, for many of y'all who don't know who John Hinckley Jr. is, John Hinckley Jr. is the man who shot President Ronald Reagan back in, I think it was March, if I'm not mistaken, March or April of 1981. Reagan had just came into office. He had just defeated Jimmy Carter in November of 1980 to be the president. He took office in January of 1981, and a few months later he was shot. Not only was Reagan shot, but you had police officer Thomas Delaney was shot, Secret Service agent Tim McCarty was shot, and Press Secretary James Brady was shot, who was disabled, paralyzed, you know what I'm saying, for the rest of his life, who eventually died from those wounds that John Hinckley Jr. shooting him 33 years later. Now, before I go any further, I want to allow my Positive Lifestyle Management co-host, Brother Midnight, to step in to give some details on what really took place with all this. And then we're going to really jump into the hypocrisy of this system.
You know, from my research, I found out that the former President Ronald Reagan wasn't really his first target. Now, according to www.biography.com, his first target was actually supposed to be the former President Jimmy Carter, which in turn, if we do the history on Mr. John Hinckley Jr., he had a crush on Miss Jodie Foster. And to impress Jodie Foster, somewhere in his mind, he concocted a plan to assassinate, first and foremost, was supposed to have been Jimmy Carter, but initially he got the former President Ronald Reagan, and the other three individuals that was involved in this particular shooting. So with that being said, this particular man was raised by good parents. He had a successful father who was a businessman for a electric company. So, you know, they say that it was insanity. This man spent 35 years in a federal insane asylum for this shooting on the former President Ronald Reagan and the three others.
So where have you been the
that being
last
said-
5 years though? So if you spent 35 years, this case happened in 1981. So where he's been the
So
last
he-
5 years?
He's been with his mother, who is 90 years old.
Also, he's been home taking
the-
care of his mother
Yeah.
the last 5 years. So
Yeah.
he ain't even been locked up.
No,
So
no, he
now
hasn't.
watch this.
He's
here
been
now.
at home. He's been at home. He was supposed to be at home on confinement for 12 to 18 months with his mother.
Okay, so hold on. Let me get this understood. This case happened in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
He was found not guilty by reason of insanity.
Right.
So
But they say he was released to his mother in 2016.
hold on now. I don't want to get too far ahead.
Okay. Okay.
He has never actually served a day in prison.
No.
So all these for 35 straight years, he was in an insane asylum.
Yeah, he was in a psychiatric ward.
He's in a
35 years.
psychiatric ward for the criminally insane, right?
Exactly.
Okay, now this is what I want to get to. I want to speak on a few people's, but the very first person I'm going to speak on is the judge made this statement, bro. I want to make sure I get this statement clear. The judge said if he hadn't tried to kill the president, he would have been unconditionally released a long time ago. So by him shooting President Reagan and James Brady, Thomas Delaney, Tim McCarty, 4 peoples now.
Mm-hmm.
If he only do 35 years in the insane asylum, but he's been at home for the last 5 years. Now let me ask a question. We have a man that's been locked up 48 years. Mr. Larry Hoover has been incarcerated in prison, enslaved for the last 48 years. And he hasn't done nothing nearby as treacherous or deadly as John Hinckley Jr. John Hinckley Jr. actually has a murder because James Brady died from those wounds.
Yes, he did.
And in Illinois prison system, when I was there, I don't know if it had changed now, but during the 80s and the 90s, if you shot somebody and you went and got some time for the attempt murder, whatever it was, and that person later on died, they will bring you back to court and recharge you for the murder. So this guy has never been recharged. This guy has never been served a day actually in prison.
No, he has not.
I'm trying to think, man. This is not making no sense to me. But see, I know what it is, and we got to call it what it is. This is white privilege, and I'm not trying to make it out of no racial thing here, but I'm making it whereas though people can understand. that there are people who are sitting in federal bureau prisons right now with life sentences who ain't never killed nobody.
Exactly.
You have people that's sitting in the federal bureau of prison right now. You got Jeff Fort sitting up in ADX. He ain't killed nobody. He's been locked up since 1986.
Yes, he
You
has.
got Gregory Shell sitting up in ADX Florence. He ain't killed nobody. He's been locked up since 1995 for drugs.
For drug,
But
for
here's
unjust
a man,
crack laws.
yes, but here's a man who has shot the president of the United States, the press secretary, James Brady, a Secret Service agent, Tim McCarthy, and a police officer, Thomas Delaney, and they finna release him?
Yes, they are.
Come on, man, make it make sense to me. It ain't making no sense to me. I need somebody to make this make sense to me. Somebody got to make this make sense. When our peoples are going to speak out? It's our duty, it's our responsibility to call the hypocrisy in this system, man. Where you got men who are locked up for non-violent offenses.
Exactly.
Then you got a brother that's sitting in the Illinois prison system, Mr. Richard Wash, who was convicted of murder. But it's a known fact, the evidence proved that the police who was involved in this case was part of John Burge's Midnight Crew. One of the police was Louis Caesar. So now we got to start calling this stuff out, man. All these blogs out here, all these podcasts and everything, man, we dealing with the celebrity stuff. Man, we got to start calling this stuff exactly what it is. Call it what it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it really doesn't make sense. And this is not, you know, I don't want to come off as being making this a racist issue. The issue is simply this: because of who he is, he has the right to be released after basically murdering one and shooting the other three. Now, we got to think about this. The president alone is the highest ranking official in the land. So how does a person get away with shooting the president of the United States of America?
I need to ask a question. Saint Elizabeth, this guy, John Hinckley Jr., was sent to Saint Elizabeth Psychiatric Hospital.
Yes, he was.
Because he was in a hospital. He wasn't in no prison. He was in a hospital to get some help. So here's a man who tried to kill the president of the United States, but he get help. What about all the other mentally insane people who are in federal prisons? Why aren't they getting the help? It is a known fact that these people are mentally insane. It's a known fact. It's a lawsuit filed against Florence ADX for men up there who has been driven insane. So why isn't they receiving the same help that John Hinckley Jr. received? Oh, also, during this time now, let me get the documents. It says, in 2016, a federal judge ruled that Hinckley could be released from psychiatric care as he was no longer considered a threat to himself or others, albeit with many conditions. After 2020, a ruling was issued that Hinckley may showcase his artwork, writings, and music publicly under his own name rather than anonymously as he had in the past. Since then, he has made a YouTube channel for his music. And then we got people running around here afraid to speak up for Larry Hoover, Jeff Ford, Gino Cologne, Gregory Shells, Durrell Pops Johnson, Quan Ray, Richard Wash. We got people afraid to speak up for these guys because they allegedly was top ranking officials of street organizations. And here's a man who actually committed treason.
Yeah.
You tried to kill the president, but you was psychic. You know what I'm saying? You was crazy.
Right.
Okay.
Which makes no sense.
Mm-mm.
It makes no sense.
Talk to us, bro.
Because then nothing come up about him being insane until the president was shot. Nowhere in the biography does it say anything about him having any mental issues. His childhood was good. He had two good parents. His father was a successful businessman. So how do you come up mentally ill in a great environment? Both parents in the home. You got anything and everything at your fingertips. Where's the mental insanity in that? You know what I'm saying? So make it make sense.
Okay.
These individuals are being held unjustly. And all this man do is 35 years in a psychiatric hospital.
I bet you it's one of the best psychiatric hospitals in the United States.
Yes, it is, because his family can afford it. His family could afford it. They got money.
Yes. It's a
And
federally, it's the hospital opened in 1855 as the first federally operated psychiatric hospital in the United States and continues serving patients today with severe and persistent mental illness as part of the District of Columbia Department of Behavioral Health. So why is all these mentally insane people that's inside of the Federal Bureau of Prison, why ain't they in St. Elizabeth?
Exactly.
Why aren't they in St. Elizabeth, where John Hinckley Jr. was at? You know what? I want to leave. I would like for us to leave on this note. Why is Larry Hoover, Jeff Ford, Gino Colon, Gregory Shields, Durrell Pops Johnson, Richard Wash, Quan Ray, why are these men, Atula Shakur, why are these men still in federal prison and state prison? You got Jerome Wilson, J. Long, my man, my big homie. He has a life sentence in the Illinois Department of Correction. He ain't murdered nobody. He got an armed robbery. And then gave the man a life sentence. Come on, man. Come on. Y'all answer these questions. You know, answer these questions. And on that note, we're going to end this awareness session by saying thank you, thank you, thank you for all your love and support. Peace.
Peace.